everyone, and welcome to this week of First and 10. I'm your host, Jason Hack. I'm joined as always by my tag team partner, Matt Etche. And Matt, how are you doing there?
I'm doing well. Week one under our belts, Jay, and it was an exciting one.
Week one definitely was a very, very exciting one. I was more excited, and because football's finally back. The university football season's underway, even though the kids aren't officially back at the school. But that's just, that element will be there before you know it.
It's true. Frosh Week coming up.
Yeah, Frosh Weeks are coming up, and school's about to be back, which means the season's only going to get even more enjoyable here. So, of course, for those of you who don't know, Matt and I are covering the Laurier and Guelph teams this year, and what a fitting way for us to start the season, because those two teams met there in the Royal City, with Guelph hosting the Laurier Golden Hawks in what was a very entertaining first half, and then by the second half, one team kind of ran away with things.
That's true. First of all, though, week one, as much as we said, classes haven't started yet. Great crowd there at Alumni Stadium. Amazing. Both teams represented very well. But I think this game ended up being what a lot of us expected. Guelph went down, scored on their first drive, I believe, and scored a major there. And Laurier was competitive there for a little while, but definitely in the second half, Guelph was able to really take control of the game and not let Laurier back into it.
Yeah, I think really what happened in the second half was more so the experience that Guelph has. A lot of third and fourth year players on the team that that have been there together for a very long period of time. They know how to gel and basically wind the team down. Where Laurier, they've got a lot of new faces on the football team, a very young team who going into the game, a lot of people were saying, Guelph could just absolutely run away from this one. And while the score may not look that impressive, if I'm Laurier, I'd take it actually as a big positive. Their defense played really well. We were able to stop Guelph on a couple, big drives that they had building up. And they were able to intercept a quarterback for Guelph, Jazz Lindsay, for a pick six for the only major for them in the day. So if you're Laurier, there's some bright spots and just some rooms for improvement on the offense.
Definitely, and I think that's going to be a theme throughout the beginning of this season, is Laurier is definitely going to have to lean very heavily on their defense, just for some support. It was great that they got them a major, but even just to prevent the other teams from scoring, obviously. Now, you mentioned their offense, and Michael Falds, the new Laurier coach, this was his first game with Laurier, and he promised an up-tempo offense, and I think you can see the signs of that being delivered. Not actually quite there yet, but Laurier did run a no-huddle offense. I would have liked to see a little bit more pace on it, and I'm sure it will have more pace as the season goes on, but a good start for them, I guess. In terms of now the groundwork is in place. They never really were able to get a lot of momentum. They had a lot of 2-and-outs and that sort of thing, never really in rhythm. But you got to admit, Coach Falds is definitely, he's committed to his promise there for a more up-tempo, pro-style offense, and it's there. They just need to get better at it and execute it better.
And I think that will happen as time goes on. Definitely. The one thing with OUA is basically it's like week one and that's there. There's no real preseason games or anything. Maybe a scrimmage here or there, but a scrimmage isn't compared to in-game competition. And, I think their new quarterback, Julian John, he's got a good arm. And I think once, the team and the offense finds the rhythm of that style of an offense and with each other, I think there's going to be a lot more success. But they did have some bright spots, especially there in that second half where they were building some drives and were capitalizing off some sloppy Guelph play with penalties and such of that nature. So I think there's a lot of bright spots for Laurier going forward, and for Guelph, much of what we thought we'd see.
They picked up where they left off last season for sure. Lindsay making some great decisions, minus the one with the interception. But other than that, 117 yards passing. He pulled the ball down and ran with it when he needed to with 53 rushing yards. They got this new tailback, Augustine, and He ran the ball with authority, 127 rushing yards. And then, of course, on defense, shut down Mr. John Rush with 7.5 tackles. Overall, there, Guelph, they looked well. They looked exactly like everyone thought they would.
Exactly. And speaking of, Rush and running the football over them, Johnny Augustine, the player you just mentioned there, our player of the week, because he was able to just really dictate the pace, because not only was he able to, he was just able to wear down the front line there for Laurier with his power and his speed. Really, they could, Guelph may found a guy that they can really lean on for, some serious yard pickups without having to worry about, having their quarterback scramble around and, risk an injury for him.
Yeah, definitely. And he's the player of the week for us, for sure. 7.9 yards per carry for him. That's amazing. Any coach will want that out of their running back, especially when you only get
absolutely.
2 yards to go 2 downs to go 10 yards. If you can get average 8 yards per carry, you're laughing there. He started out, this kid, he played high school football in Jupiter, Florida, down in the States, and then he came up to Canada and played in the Ontario Varsity Football League for the Niagara Spears. Highly touted. McMaster actually wanted to recruit him as a defensive back. Obviously, he wanted nothing to do with that. Laurier also on his list, but actually key recruiter John Casanta locked him up for the Guelph Griffins, and I think they're very pleased with this recruit.
I think they sure are definitely very pleased about that, because, like I said, a big, powerful back can really wear a team down, which I think happened with Laurier and could happen, very much so for other teams going on. And, playing some football in the States at high school level, I mean, it's Jupiter, Florida. Well, guess what? Johnny Augustine's out of this world. He's from outer space, folks, with the way he was running that football against Laurier. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens for them next week, and we'll get to that in just a little bit here. Just some wrap up rest of week 1 here in the OUA. Really, I was at least happy for us that the first game we got to go to was kind of a competitive one, because the rest of these scores here were a bit of a blowout. Western put up 54 against U of T, who put up 14. Waterloo went down to Windsor, and I thought it would be a much more competitive matchup. Not. Windsor 78, Waterloo 11, Queens 52, York 1. And Ottawa actually put up a valiant effort in the first half against McMaster, but McMaster did what they really should have done and pulled away in the second half, putting up 51 against 24 for the GG. So some big teams that we expected to get wins do. Yeah. And some teams that I think expected to, turn the tide. I think they've got some building blocks, but they got a long season to go. So there's that for them.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of surprises there. Definitely.
Yeah, none whatsoever. But for the Guelph Griffins, who, had, as we said, had a good week 1, well, they're playing the team of the Windsor Lancers, who just put up 78, granted, against the Waterloo Warriors, but 78 points, that's unreal. That's Madden-ish, folks. That shouldn't happen. But all in all, I think this could be a real. You really have to pull out the air parade in this one, because absolutely Austin Kennedy, Windsor Lancers quarterback, and Jazz Lindsay, they're going to be throwing this football around like a bunch of kids.
Oh yeah, this Windsor offense, very explosive. They were last season. You saw it a little bit. I mean, going to be even more so this season. They have a lot of starters coming back. And Jazz Lindsay better be explosive, because they're going to need it. Definitely the Guelph defense, they are going to have to corral this Windsor quarterback, Mr. Kennedy. As they did last year, though, Guelph was able to limit him. They did win 28-9 against Windsor last year. And they held him without a touchdown, not passing or rushing touchdown. So that's quite impressive. And you got to watch for that. The Guelph defense is going to have to do that again. As we mentioned, I mean, Guelph's offense just all around the board going to have to do well against Windsor. And then we'll see. I agree. I think it's going to be high explosive, high scoring game, entertaining one to watch.
I think it definitely will. In a way, at least the quarterback position, both Lindsey and Kennedy kind of the same, got some wheels on them, because Kennedy was able to run for about 100 yards on Waterloo in his own right too, and Lindsey, we know his ability to escape out of the pocket and make plays happen. So I mean, it's going to be a real interesting battle. It's one of those where a defensive play or something on special teams is what's going to come down to it. So there's going to be someone is going to have to step up in that element of the game, I think, to win this type of a game.
Yeah, it definitely could be, and that's how it is always. These two teams both pick to possibly, well, definitely Guelph's going to make the playoffs. Most people are picking that. Windsor also, people are saying they're going to make the playoffs again this season. And so two really good teams. Sometimes it comes down to that, just one little play.
Exactly, and the other exciting Labor Day matchup for us is the Laurier Golden Hawks looking to bounce back against a team also hoping to bounce back, the Toronto Varsity Blues, who, let's face it folks, last year the Varsity Blues, no one really expected much from them, but they were kind of a surprise, couple hits there that had some nice wins, showed some nice resilience, and last year when they met Laurier, they not only won, they shut them out for the first time since 1995. That was their first shutout win, and the first one against Laurier since '96, since Biggie had an album. I mean, let's be real, like that is insane. So Toronto, they're looking to do the same at Laurier's home.
Yeah, definitely, and I think these two teams are very similar, very well matched. It's going to be a good one. If you can, come out to University Stadium, watch Laurier play on a Monday night, Labor Day night, 7:30 is the time of the game. I think it's going to be a really fun one to watch. As I said, these two teams, very similar, kind of turning the corner. One of the things that I must say is I think this is a big game for both these teams. A lot of people have picked Laurier to drop and not make the playoffs this season, and U of T to replace them in the playoffs. So this is a pivotal matchup. I think these two teams at the end of the season going to have very similar records, and the first tiebreaker, of course, head-to-head.
Exactly, and that's what it's going to come down to. For me, I see this as a kind of low-scoring game. If you're Toronto, you really just want a touchdown or two, because Laurier's got to figure out the offense. Like we said, something is developing there, but I don't know, maybe on that short turnaround if it's going to be enough here. But I still think Laurier, they'll be like a 14-7 game here, but once defenses will shine, and I think what we've seen from Laurier's defense so far is actually really impressive. So
yeah, the experience there from Laurier, as we said off the top of the show, the first few weeks, definitely Laurier is going to have to lean on that defense until this offense really gets going on all cylinders. However, I will say, I think they'll have a much better chance doing it for the offense, doing it against the U of T defense than they did last week against Guelph. I think the U of T defense is just a little less I guess competitive than the Guelph defense would be.
Only thing worrying about me about Laurier is that, eating chicken wings at Morty's Pub, can't be doing that. Gotta be focused on Toronto, but they definitely will be by Monday for sure.
Oh yeah.
But some exciting matchups for Labor Day. We're gonna take a look at the power rankings quickly here. McMaster and Western 1, 2, and Guelph in at 3. Not much of a change from what we saw. Queens is in at 4, and like I said, really impressed with what they did, only giving up a rouge. And then, the GGs, the Varsity Blues, the Lancers. Carleton at 8, mainly because they didn't play. And then Laurier, York, and Waterloo finish out the bottom 3 here. And looking at the CIS top 10, some pretty impressive stuff up there, because you got a couple squads from the OUA here. Queens at 2, which a lot of people are surprised about. Western at 4, McMaster and Guelph at 6 and 7.
Respectively, and I think a lot of people, myself anyway, was very surprised to see Queens at the top at number 2. I don't know how many people really pick Queens to necessarily be at the top of the OUA, so to have them there on the CIS top 10 rankings, quite impressive. I will say, after this week, when they play McMaster, we're going to find out if Queens really do belong at number 2.
You know what? Exactly, we are, but then again, how many times do people really judge rankings or anything like that. I mean, it's nice to see you for, a confidence booster, but, only giving up 1 point is impressive, but it was against York, a team with not a lot of firepower.
And it's just the first week.
And it's the first week, exactly.
And only OUA played.
Exactly. And only the OUA played, so not really a fair first week list for the CIS. But, that's really about, it for this week of the show. There's some exciting matchups here. The last thing, I guess, before we get out of here, we're just going to take some quick picks.
We always do the quick picks.
Gotta go do the quick picks here for the remainder of the OUA, as we have the Ottawa GGs taking on the Waterloo Warriors. Who do you like in this one, Matt?
I mean, until Waterloo shows me they can bring out a little bit of a better effort, gotta go with Ottawa.
I feel the same way. Go GGs in that one. The McMaster Marauders and Queens Gales, as you said earlier.
I thought long and hard about this, and I really can't decide. I decided on Queens because they're at home, but that's going to be a great game to be at.
You know what? I'm going to stick with McMaster still, because I think Queens, really got to prove if McMaster's the team they want, and McMaster still holds all the cards among the OUA so far, so you can't go against it. And then our last game, the Western Mustangs at home hosting the return of the Carleton Ravens.
Yeah, what a tough debut for the Ravens. Not only playing a tough Western team, but playing them in London. I gotta go with Western.
I mean, I don't think the question is who's gonna win this, but how many points are Western gonna put on the return of the Ravens? I think really it'll be, quote, the Raven nevermore after this game, but I don't know. Definitely Western with a big win, maybe in the 70s.
You heard it from me.
But yeah, that's the first week, or week one rundown, our first episode of the full season here. It's going to be an exciting couple weeks here, because before you know it, Matt, homecoming games will be around, and especially when we go to Guelph with the seating they put in for TICAT games, that's just going to be 18,000 people.
Oh my God.
They're ready in Guelph. They are expecting some big things. But yeah, that's it for us. And if you have any questions, you can definitely follow us on Twitter and get at us at Twitter here with our Twitter account at First and 10 FB. So for Matt, I am your host, Jason Hagholm. That's it for this week. Peace out and enjoy some good football.